Society and the Women's Peace House, which we still miss. And I remember coming to an event here at Las Manitas in which all the different groups that you were funding in those days gathered, and it seemed like it was every group in town. I believe there were 100 people here.
Wow.
And so I'm wondering, what were the lessons that you learned from that experience of giving your money away that way?
Well, I learned that it's good to do unilateral giving, satisfying a need, and that it's better not to have to ask for people to tell you what they've done afterwards. They don't have to write back to the foundation and say, we did this and this and this with this money. So it's open-ended in a way, it allows people to be more creative. I've learned that it's better to go ahead and fund the whole project and not make the other people have to try to scratch around and find the rest from somebody else, from a number of different, just go ahead and do it, just satisfy the need. And I've learned that even if you don't have a specific goal in mind, a short-term goal, if you have a long-term goal, a radical long-term goal, like total social change or something, the things will flow out by themselves and go forward. It happens. I mean, this is the goddess moving in the world. At least that's what happened to me. I mean, and also even the gift economy. I've talked and I've fussed and all that about the gift economy. And then all of a sudden people that I never even met started coming up with the idea. And it's amazing. It's really amazing. I'm a person that's lived long enough to see her idea spread wide. I mean, I didn't spread it. I did the best I could from where I was. But a lot of other people came up with that idea because it was kind of like its time had come. And in the moment in which you had the capitalism falling apart, other people come up with this idea because it is the truth. It is. We do have mothers. We are our mothering a mothering species, and we have just forgotten that over these 5,000 years of patriarchy. But we can get back to it because 5,000 years is not very long from the hundreds of thousands of years that humans have been on the earth. So it's possible, and it's just we're living in a very strange moment, which we have to survive and change. And the other thing that I learned is practice is not enough. You can't just do something. You have to do the theory of it as well. You have to have the reasoning around it and the consciousness. So that's why I started writing, because I felt, and that's why I wrote my book in '97, because I felt that as much as I tried to do, it hadn't worked. And I had to do more, and that was on a different level, and that was the level of theory or consciousness.
Thank you.
What do you see going forward?
Well, I don't really see the near. I'm as upset as anybody about everything that's happening. it looks bad. But I believe in this underground of the gift. If we do commit suicide as a species, it will be really a shame, because we're not that. We're not the creatures of exchange. We're not the creatures of the market. We're not patriarchal. Even men aren't patriarchal. All men have had mothers. So they learned that model. They just learned to give it up and to disrespect it. So often, not everybody, but many. And since we're not the species that we think we are. We're a gift-giving species. So we should not be allowing ourselves to commit suicide and to destroy the planet. But we just got it wrong. We don't know who we are. Perhaps that will be your next book. I'm going to write my autobiography next.
No, I'm going to write your autobiography. You're like Alice B. Toklas and Gertrude Stein.
Well, I'm going to read it.
We'll take pre-orders.
Yeah.
Jen, you were just talking about the bad situation we find ourselves in now. I'm a big fan of post-apocalyptic films and books and stuff. And most of them are so negative that, we end up being the bad Australian Western with all the men killing each other off and murdering every woman they come across. But there are some who see little groups surviving somewhere with a sharing kind of system, and usually those have strong women characters in them. So I think that there's a strong feeling in literature, if nowhere else, that there is a chance that we as a species might survive that way. So that kind of goes along with your thoughts.
Yeah, it does. Well, that dinner table conversation we had back in Corpus Christi, in the end suggested that we would change the government to councils of grandmothers. And I think that would work. Yeah.
You said something that really caught my attention, because I've been thinking about how do we deconstruct the empire. And part of it is like the value base, and part of my brain's been where the values are coming out of the history that we tell ourselves. But you said here tonight that if you want to change the values, you have to change the economy. And I thought that was fascinating. I sort of want you to talk more about that. I don't know what more you'll say. I mean, it's just maybe it's all of your work. I kind of get it, but it's just fascinating. If we just change the economy, that's how we begin to change our values. Or I don't know.
It is. Well, there's the Marxist idea of structure and superstructure. The economic structure brings about a ideological superstructure. And so we have the economic structure of the market with the ideology of the market. And we have a gift economy already in mothering, but we don't have its superstructure. We call that moral values, or we call it caring. But it comes, the way you interact in your daily life, whether you go about exchanging all the time, which so many of us do, or if we're not actually exchanging, we're working in order to be able to exchange at a certain point. And that brings about a certain kind of mindset. And instead, if you're giving and receiving, and most of the time, that brings about a different kind of mindset. That's all really that structure and superstructure means. But if you change the economy and emphasize the gift economy, you're going to have more gift values. People are going to have gift values. It's maybe more complicated than that, but it's also pretty much that simple. Yeah.
I think an example of what you're talking about is the Zapatistas in Mexico. They have created their own independent government, their own economy. Unfortunately, still some of the currency exchange, but majority of it is cooperative. And they were cooperative in all of the small pueblos, and people exchange vegetables, they exchange medicinal herbs, and they exchange whatever each group is doing in their own communities, and they're pretty much totally independent of the capitalist economy of Mexico. And so that's a really good thing. And what I've seen in all my years also here in the United States is that the indigenous people, us that are known as Mexican Americans, are going back to our indigenous values. And we say that we are the indigenous peoples of the Southwest. And I participated in a lot of indigenous ceremonies and all. And the conversations are very much that exchange economy, exchange ideas that you're talking about, going back to the traditional ways of the way that the indigenous tribes used to work with each other. And so I personally see a lot of movement forward in that respect, because we started being called Mexican Americans. We call ourselves Chicanos. Now we call ourselves Mexicanos, and or looking for our indigenous. For me, for example, what was my tribe? I don't know what my tribe was, and that's very sad. But I do know that I have that indigenous blood in me, and I want to go back to it and be able to help out my fellow indigenous people by gifting and not worrying about what I get back.
Well, I think that we all have a lot to learn from indigenous people who the Europeans did not succeed in destroying. And certainly did every possible thing to do that. And one of the reasons, I think, is that capitalism and the gift economy are in competition with each other, and competition is the value of capitalism, not of the gift economy. And so capitalism succeeds and wants to wipe out the gift economy. So and the gift economy of women as well. And so, we also have to be pretty savvy in trying to and realize that it can be dangerous. I mean, it can also be, actually the gift economy is such a human thing that it would really be difficult to take it away altogether from everybody. But I think one of the reasons why the Europeans tried to destroy the native peoples is because they wanted not to have the gift economy. They wanted their own market, and they wanted to take the gifts that belong to the indigenous people, the land.
The right of discovery.
The right of discovery and the gradual encroachment, all of that. And are still doing it.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's pretty awful.
Every time when you talk about gentrification in Austin, Texas, that's the continuation of that
Yeah.
imperialist American way of life. Is within the indigenous peoples in the east side of Austin, they're occupying our lands, they're destroying our culture, they're burying us under their condominiums and their multi-million-dollar houses, and we're being pushed more and further out, and just like they did when the Pilgrims and the Conquistadores first planted their flags on
Yeah.
our land.
Well, yeah, and it's a whole system that has to change. And so, people need to unite behind other values, with other values, the values of gift giving and social change. And there's also a question of spirituality. Also the Native people have demonstrated their ability to survive due to the spirituality that they hold. And there are many lessons for the Europeans to learn, and the Europeans of goodwill to learn from the native people. And we all are grateful that they will share with us.
I think that there are already efforts about the gift economy. I'm from Mexico, and I work there with a group of women that work with cooperatives and empowering women. And there are groups already that are thinking of getting outside the market and just doing their own moneda, coin, and they call it, one of them is in the Huasteca Potosina, and they have what they call the tumi, and they exchange, like they barter your book for my boots or whatever, and but those efforts don't come out in the media, of course, unless you are connected in some way with these people, or like the compañero was saying, with the Zapatistas communities. Then you're able to know what's going on. But otherwise, the mainstream media won't show that. And of course, there are cooperatives like the ones from Chiapas, where she comes from also, who also are doing an effort. So I think that there are efforts already going on, but that we're not aware of.
Yeah. Yes, there are, and there are the eco-villages that people are trying to do.
Right.
Gift economy in, or almost gift economy in. And they even do neighborhoods in towns that are kind of based on the gift economy. There are a number of different initiatives. I have some of them in the back of the book. But you're right, yeah. And all of these are like steps along the way. I think it's necessary to have a gift analysis also that connects it with mothering. And even, I believe that indigenous people usually respect mothers much more than the Europeans do. And so that is one of the ways that gift economy has been created in indigenous societies, and how it can come out of our society too, if we just embrace it.